Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Raising Musos podcast. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Raising Musos podcast, the podcast that helps parents support their child's musical journey with expert advice and practical tips. I'm your host, Eliza Bourgault, and today we are delving into the second part of my two-part series called The 10 Golden Rules of Being a Perfect Music Student. If you haven't listened yet to the first part, I recommend that you do, probably before listening to this particular episode. So I decided to make this two-part series because ever since I started this podcast at the beginning of 2025, I have really been speaking a lot about teachers, teacher green flags, teacher red flags, what to look for in a teacher, but I never really spoke about students and how a student's behavior and attitude can either slow down or accelerate their learning. And so I wrote a blog post a couple of years ago called The 10 Commandments of a Music Student. And so that's what I'm basing this episode series about. So in last week's episode, I shared the first five golden rules of being a perfect music student. And these were to be punctual, to clarify instructions when confused, to arrive to lessons with all the required materials, to practice the assigned homework between lessons, and to communicate goals with the teacher. These were the 5 rules, and so if you follow these 5 rules, you are more likely to have a more respectful relationship with your teacher, a more productive relationship with your teacher. And so you're more likely to basically get better at music. Because how you treat your teacher and how your teacher feels about you is so important. And I think the better outcomes are when there is a mutual level of respect between the teacher and the student, or between the teacher and the family. So of course, I actually have another 5 golden rules, and these are the ones that I'm going to share in today's episode. Yeah, these ones are really, really good rules. I can't believe I came up with them. I'm such a genius. Okay, so yeah, this next one, it might trigger some people. Okay, so the rule is, you shall not assume that you know better than the teacher. So music tutors, so people like myself who give music lessons, we have studied music for many, many years. We also have acquired pretty high skills on our instruments. A lot of music tutors would have studied music at university, and so it's just very rude for you to undermine your teacher skills, knowledge, and their qualifications by telling them that they're wrong. And so this is a bit hard to say, but sometimes it's more of an attitude or like a mindset that either the student or the teacher, the student or the parent has. Sometimes it's more subtle and covert rather than this overt arrogance. So I had a student once, and he said that he was the best at piano. He knows everything. So a kind of arrogance. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? If the kid already thinks he's so great, there's really nothing I can do. So that was like an attitude that just wasn't suitable for music lessons. Often, something else that happens is parents really force their child to take exams, even though the child is really not ready. They haven't acquired the skills necessary to complete an exam to a good standard. And so I'm guilty of doing that, because obviously I have prepared students for exams when they weren't ready, because it was sort of something the parent really wanted. So I should have spoken up. But I suppose I was afraid of making the parents angry by saying their child wasn't really good enough yet to take an exam. But there's lots of other little things where parents want to like push in with their own opinion, even though they might have very little musical background. They are probably comparing their child to other children who are also doing music lessons. And so, if I have a parent asking me to do something a certain way and I don't agree with it, it makes me feel very, very uncomfortable. It makes me feel that the knowledge that I have and the way that I do things is wrong, which then leaves me confused, because if you come to me, obviously you seek my expertise in some way or another. So why are you now challenging it? So, if you have a teacher, like, trust them. Don't start challenging everything that they do or questioning what they do, because there is probably some deeper reasons for the way we do things that you might not understand. And sure, you can get an insight by asking them, but if you want to take complete ownership of your child's learning, that means like you're not meant to have a teacher. So I hope that makes sense. But here the rule is, trust your teacher, and don't assume that you know better than they do, because especially experienced ones will know exactly what they're doing. They know things to look for, they know how to fix problems and things like that. So rule number 2 is respect. It's similar. Respect a teacher's decisions. So it's okay, as I said, it's okay to ask questions as to maybe why you are learning a particular thing, but chances are your teacher has set you a particular piece, an exercise or an etude for a specific reason. The reason may not always be clear, but there is always one. And if you start disagreeing with a teacher's decisions, you've got, either you discuss it and you sort of understand what they're doing, or you just probably would stop lessons, because if there is a disagreement between parent and teacher, it really does make the learning so much more difficult. So whatever a teacher decides is there for a reason. If you don't agree with the reason, it's probably best to withdraw from lessons. And if you understand the reason, then you can support it. Okay, the next rule is to respect all studio policies. So usually what happens is the larger a studio is, the more policies they would have. Well, not necessarily, but what I mean is maybe someone who works from home maybe has just started teaching. They might not really have any sort of policies, whereas someone who is more established will likely have at least some policies regarding payment, makeup lessons, and things like that. And policies are not there to punish people or or because, the teacher is mean, but it's to have a set of rules so that everybody gets treated fairly and equally. So that's what the policies are there for. And usually, if you sign up for music lessons, you would have to sign policies. And if there are policies you don't like, either you don't sign up there or you just get over it and accept them. But then if you accept them, don't try to, work your way around policies. It becomes really unfair for everybody else, and it adds so much extra workload and burden to the teacher, who then has to, because imagine if I have like 50 families that I'm dealing with. Imagine if 50 families all had their own different set of policies. I would lose my mind. So one set of policy for everyone is how a small person like me running a small music school can manage it efficiently. It helps me to know that the customer service that I'm giving is fair for everyone. And it also gives clear consequences for events. So both parties, as in both the teacher and the family, will know what happens when certain things happen. So there is also less confusion around important aspects of studio, such as makeup lessons and payments and things like that. So policies are very important, and everyone will probably have, all the different teachers will likely have their own set of policies that might be a little bit different. There is no right or wrong policy about anything. It's just what works best for the studio or for the teacher. And as I said, you can either just not sign up if you don't like the policies, or you can just sign up and respect them. Even if you don't really like them, that's just how it is. So that's very important. Okay, so I only have 2 more rules for you today. And the next one is, you shall not be afraid of making mistakes. So that is an incredibly important rule. A lot of students, whether they're children or adults, will stress about mistakes. They'll be apologetic when they make a mistake. But it's part of the journey. So the quicker you can accept that, the better off you're going to be. So making mistakes is it's sort of fun, it's beautiful, it's not always enjoyable, but it is part of the overall experience. And the less scared you are of making mistakes, I think the quicker you are going to learn, because you can just move on from them so much quickly, and also you'll get better at handling mistakes. So accept your mistakes and rejoice in your mistakes, because what are they showing you? It shows that you're learning and you're trying new things, and no one is going to get anything perfect the very first time. So mistakes are part of the journey. Try to laugh at the mistakes rather than, feeling embarrassed or ashamed or frustrated at yourself. Just say hello to your mistake. Oh, hello. What did I get wrong? Why did I get it wrong? So every mistake that you make, there is probably some kind of thing to learn from it. So, for example, I noticed almost, whether it's harp or piano, when a student makes a mistake, as in like they play a wrong note, often it has to do with like the fingering, like they weren't quite sure what finger to place on the note, and because of that confusion, they just played a wrong note with the wrong finger. And so then it's like, well, you just made that mistake. Well, that's because the fingering was uncertain. So let me tell you what fingering to use. And now you're going to be really consistent with that fingering and you're never going to make that mistake again. So mistakes just show you like what you need to improve and that's it. So they're actually so helpful. So don't beat yourself up over mistakes. And for sure, as the rule says, don't be afraid of making them. Okay, and finally, the final rule for today. But first, let me remind you what the first 4 of this episode were. We had don't assume that you know better than the teacher, respect the teacher's decision, respect the studio policies, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. And for the final, so this would be the 10th golden rule of being a perfect student. What is it? Oh, enjoy making beautiful music on beautiful instruments. So I would say all music teachers here, like our ultimate goal is for you to enjoy playing music. And sure, the ride to playing music might be really bumpy, it might be challenging, it might sound horrible at some point. But we do hope that whatever it is that you play, you come to this point where you can enjoy it. You can enjoy the sound that you're making, the sound of your instrument. You can enjoy the beauty of the piece that you're learning. Maybe it's an expressive piece of music. Maybe it's a very intellectually stimulating piece of music. Maybe it's a fun song that really gets you energized. Like, whatever it is that you play, are you able to find enjoyment in it and see the beauty in it? Because in the end, that's really what music is about. It's about creating something really beautiful and perhaps even sharing it with others. And music is not just about fixing mistakes, finding flaws, always striving to improve. It's not about doing exams, it's not about doing competitions, it's not even about doing concerts, it's just appreciating music, appreciating beauty, creating beauty by plucking strings or blowing in an instrument, playing some keys. There's just so many ways of adding beauty to the world. And so this is why I left this as the final rule. Enjoy what music is actually about. Okay, so this was another pretty short and sweet episode. So let me recap the 10 rules of being a perfect music student. So I'm going to repeat the one from the previous episode again. Being punctual, clarifying instructions, arriving to lessons with all the materials, doing the homework, communicating goals, not assuming you know better than the teacher, respecting the teacher's decisions, respecting studio policies, not being afraid of making mistakes, and enjoying music's true purpose and enjoying the beauty of music. So these were the 10 commandments of a perfect music student. Which rule are you going to follow from today? Let me know in the comments. If you've enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Or maybe if you have any ideas for future topics, I would love to hear from you. You can leave a message or leave a comment under this video on YouTube, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. My handle is @musicmakersacademy, or you can send me an email, hello@musicmakersacademy.com.au. So again, my name is Eliza. You have been listening to the Raising Musos podcast, and I will see you in next week's episode. Bye!